told me specifically.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Mizzou football post-game show on Show Me Football. I am your host, Josh Fan, and today I am joined by Braden Dowers and Prime Connor, who both of you are very familiar with. Hopefully everyone is familiar with you. Can't talk because you guys have made several appearances on the channel. But Mizzou won today, but it's a game that absolutely nobody feels good about. And I think that about halfway through the second quarter, I said to myself, Mizzou can win this game. They're going to win this game no matter what. I never felt like they were going to lose for the most part. We'll get into that. I never felt like they were going to lose, but I pretty much decided from halfway through the second quarter that whatever the result, like I still wasn't going to feel great about Mizzou and this team moving forward, because today was maybe the most pathetic win of the Eli Drinkwitz era. And we've had a lot of wins that have been dogfights where Mizzou has scraped by over Drinkwitz's time here. But even a lot of those have come against, SEC opponents. 23-19 win over Middle Tennessee State. Not good. Now, I know MTSU has actually beat some Power 5 opponents over the past several years. They actually beat Mizzou back in 2016. But also this Mizzou program was in a totally different time back in 2016 than they are now. This game should have been a double-digit win by Missouri, and it was not, mostly due to the offensive performance. And we're going to break it all down for you guys. But, of course, I want to get Braden's initial thoughts on these games. And then Connor's basically just here to pile on Eli Drinkwitz, since I think the confidence meter on Eli Drinkwitz took a significant nosedive today. And he's been in that boat for a while now. So, of course, we got to bring him on. But, Braden, since you actually caught most of the game, what do you have to say after that performance?
Pathetic is an understatement, I'd say. This team is not going to beat Kansas State. This team, I don't know if they beat Memphis. I have little to no hope after that performance. I'd like to preface everything that I'm about to say can be completely redacted if we do beat K-State. I will redact everything that I say if we go out next week and beat them. But with that in mind, which it is not going to happen, we are not beating K-State. This team fucking sucks. Brady Cook is terrible. Eli Drinkwitz should have been fired yesterday. The defense was good, but not great. Middle Tennessee made a lot of really damn good catches that there was nothing that we could have done about. But this defense did not perform up to the level that I think we all thought it should. I'm still not too worried about them. But the offense is a joke. The run blocking that we saw in week 1 was not there, completely gone. Javon Foster did not look great. The rest of the offense.
Cameron Johnson, too, the Houston transfer, also terrible from him.
The rest of the offensive line looked bad. Cody Schrader continuing to get more snaps than Pete makes no sense. He wasn't good. He has no burst. The wide receivers were whatever. They made decent enough adjustments to catch the balls that took 5 yards behind them.
One positive, Luther Burton had his first 100-yard receiving game as Missouri Tigers. If you won by spot in this game.
Yay, we beat Middle Tennessee State by fucking 4. We were favored by 20.
Well, so you mentioned the defense, and I'll say about them real quick. They really held Middle Tennessee to 17 points because 2 of the points were from a Brady Cook fumble that ended up becoming a safety. They held them to 17 points, which, as an SEC team, holding Middle Tennessee to 17 points, that's acceptable. The problem is, what's not acceptable is your offense only scoring 23. If Mizzou had scored 50 points and Middle Tennessee had only scored 19, no one would be saying any bad things about the defense. But the defense, like last year, a lot of times is getting put back on the field over and over and over again because this pathetic offense cannot sustain drives. They can't put up points. And I was waiting to see how this offense would look with Kirby Moore. And
nothing's changed. It is still Drinkwitz's playbook. Kirby Moore is just a name. He is nothing has changed with this offense. If anything, it's gotten worse. It's gotten more stale.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping that the Kirby Moore hire would have added elements from the offense that we saw Kirby Moore coach at Fresno State. That was a top 25 passing offense last year and had a quarterback drafted in the NFL and had
probably
some
because
of the better
steroids.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still, Fresno State's offense, they won the Mountain West last year, or they were in the Mountain West championship game. I forget whether or not they won, but it got them to a Mountain West championship. And then he comes here, and like you said, the offense looks the exact same. And I'm almost ready to say that it looks worse because at least last year against the cupcake teams, we were putting them away with this offense. Even in those games, the offense was never overly impressive, but those games were never in doubt. Fourth quarter, this game was not looking good. Middle Tennessee had a chance to upset Missouri in the fourth quarter of this game with this offense. It looks like the exact same Drink offense of years past. It all looks the same. Brady Cook, there has been no improvement with Brady Cook. And if there's... How is this the best quarterback that Drink has to offer in year 4? Last year, I could have explained away last year, okay, you whiffed in the portal, but you tried. You tried to get Jaden Daniels. You tried to get JT Daniels from Georgia. You tried for Jerry Bohannon. Any of those guys would have been fine. Any of those guys probably would have gotten us to 8 wins. And then this year, there seemed to be less of an aggression to add a transfer quarterback. And then we see Brady Cook again, and he looks like the same guy, man. Everyone wanted to say, oh, the torn labrum, the shoulder injury, it was holding them back. It's the same Brady Cook, guys. The shoulder injury did nothing to change that. The shoulder injury did not change the fact that Brady Cook cannot read a defense. He is still overthrowing routine passes, 5-yard outs. He underthrew Burden and overthrew Burden on 2 plays that would have been touchdowns if it was a better placed ball. Literally, Burden was running open twice, and Brady Cook just completely missed him. Both would have been touchdowns.
And I said it in the video. I said it in the video that we made breaking down the Mizzou quarterback battle. The fact that Brady Cook can't read his fucking shoulder injury doesn't change the fact that he can't read a defense. And there's that one interception against Florida. He is doing the exact same shit. There was one ball that should have been a pick when we were only up. I think it was 16-10, and he was trying to throw a crossing route to, I think it was Luther or Weiss, and a Middle Tennessee guy just jumped right up, and he should have intercepted it. And it's that's going to get picked and go for 6 in the SEC, and we are going to be fucked.
Well, speaking of going up against SEC competition, even these play calls, this offense, there was a play today where they threw a play behind the line of scrimmage to Luther Burden, and it looked like he was going to be brought down. Somehow turns it into a first down. It was in the first quarter, I think. Mm-hmm. First half at least. I remember that. But that's a play that if you run that in the SEC, Luther Burden's getting tackled for a loss of yards. And we saw that way too many times last year when this team would run a screen or some play in the backfield, a slow developing play behind the line of scrimmage, and it ends up going for a loss of yards. Just a complete waste of a down. And that stuff might work against Middle Tennessee. It might work against South Dakota. It's not working against Georgia. It's not working against Kentucky. It's just not. There's so much that we could get into, though, with this team, with this game. I'm just super disappointed. I have been a massive Eli Drinkwitz supporter, advocate for the last 3 years. Even through the rough times, I'm guys, just give him time. I have a feeling this thing's going to trend in the right direction. The recruiting is very good. If Cook is just if this offense has a pulse this year, we should be winning 8 games, all that stuff. I was confident in this team. Through 2 games, that has taken a complete nosedive, and I'm this is my first time that I'm considering being out on Eli Drinkwitz,
He has a better record than Nick Saban right now.
Yeah, Connor's boy. Connor, we'll give you a chance to talk in a second. I got to say, though, that my biggest thing through 2 games is you played South Dakota and Middle Tennessee. Okay, 2 cupcakes. Like, I know Middle Tennessee has given some teams some fight, but, like, this should be a double-digit win. You've played 2 cupcake teams in the first 2 games of the season, and it's been a dogfight, man. Like, even South Dakota, like, I know they beat them 35-10, but you still didn't feel great about the offense.
There was a moment there in the second half whenever South Dakota got that touchdown and made it 28-10, and then they got the ball back and they were driving. It's just like, are we about to, like, Falcons this shit? Like, there was a thought in my head standing there, like, because we were at the game, I'm like, we might. Oh.
Yeah.
Like, that was definitely a thought.
Yeah, like, these games should never be in doubt. And, I mean, I said last week after the South Dakota win that, like, the game was never in doubt. Like, I never thought they were going to lose that game or anything.
I thought that we were going to lose tonight whenever Cook got the safety.
Yeah. Yeah, the concern was real after that play. And that's such a horrible play from Cook, dude. Like, that's part – like, I see that stuff from him, and it's like, dude, you haven't improved. Like, this is the same Brady Cook. Like, he's not good. He's not a Power 5 starting QB. Definitely not the SEC. I mean, maybe the dude could go to the Big Ten and be fine. I don't know. But SEC, he's just he's not good in the SEC. I mean, Mizzou was the kid's only Power 5 offer coming out of high school. And he committed right away after he got the offer. He wasn't interested in anything else. I get Brady. It's been his dream to be the starting quarterback for the Missouri Tigers, but his dream of being Missouri starting quarterback is starting to become all of ours nightmare. Like, I can't believe this is what Drink is trotting out there in year 4. But you played the 2 weak teams at the beginning of the schedule, and even those games aren't very convincing. And if you're not beating these teams in convincing fashion, I have no confidence that you're going to go into K-State next week and beat them. I mean, I fully expect right now K-State to come into Columbia and beat this team by double digits. Yeah, I don't. Connor, what are your thoughts? Because go ahead, take your victory lap.
I want to hear you say you were right, Connor.
Well, what about what? Right about what?
Eli Drinkwitz is a middling football coach who is not going to win more than 6 games.
Yeah, you're right. As things stand right now, you're right. Eli Drinkwitz is a 6-6 coach. Always will be a 6-6 coach until he proves otherwise. And this year, after these first 2 games, I have almost zero confidence that you're going to finish better than 6-6.
No, it's going to be 6-7 with a bowl loss, and that is all you're going to get under Eli Drinkwitz. And I think that your main argument in favor of Drinkwitz has always been the recruiting. The recruiting is so good, right? Well, first of all, outside of Williams and Maury, I know you're going to say, but as of right now, the class outside of Williams and Maury is not very good. But even before then, I feel like you can attribute a lot of his recruiting to the NIL fund, with the fact that, you've said it before, the University of Missouri is between 2 major metro areas with Kansas City and St. Louis. So you have businesses from both those major cities contributing to the NIL fund, giving you a major advantage over a lot of other schools. Therefore,
Missouri's NIL is like sneakily one of the best.
Right. So,
well, I'll interject real quick and say when it comes to keeping in-state kids, yes, like that new law that they passed helps tremendously. But like everybody has NIL to use to their advantage.
Right. But Missouri has a distinct advantage. And an argument you commonly use is saying, oh, well, we had to give Pinkle time. We gave Pinkle time. First of all, Pinkle was a drunk and banged the weather girl. And second of all, Drink is in a very different situation than Pinkle, because Pinkle didn't have the NIL fund. He had to build everything up the old-fashioned way from the ground. Drinkwitz can skip all that and go straight to the meat and potatoes.
Colorado.
Like the Texas A&M route. So, like, Drinkwitz can operate like this is Texas A&M, not like this is the Missouri teams of old. So, with the position Missouri's in, this should be a quick turnaround, but it's not. So having patience in an era of college football where you can see Colorado go from 1-11 to one of the powers of college football, one of the most talked about teams, in the span of a few months, no, there's no reason to have patience with Drinkwitz, especially when in year 4, as you said, year 4, with all the NIL, he can't get a better quarterback than Brady Cook. And even if he, in theory, could or has a better quarterback than Brady Cook, his loyalty to Brady Cook shows that he is a bad football coach and a bad evaluator of talent. One of my biggest issues with Saban right now is his loyalty to Jalen Milroe. And he's been loyal to Jalen Milroe for 2 weeks. The biggest issue of Drink is his loyalty to the quarterback position of a guy who's been consistently terrible for what? Is this like the 3rd season of Brady Cook shitting his pants every week?
Second.
He played in a couple games 2 years ago, played all of last season. Now he's the starter this season. So, I mean, not really 3 years, but like this is his 3rd year of actual root game action.
So take the Missouri team that you've seen play against Middle Tennessee State and South Dakota, compare them against Kansas State next week. That's a double-digit loss. You were talking about in the group chat about how they're probably going to lose to Memphis. Vanderbilt, they're probably going to win that one. LSU, hell no. Kentucky, probably.
Shit, I don't even know about Vandy. I'm going to go as far and say that. We struggled to beat Vandy last year at home.
Yeah, I agree with Braden. Like, I feel like the way you've seen them play in the first 2 weeks, like
nothing's a guarantee.
No one should be chalking up any Power 5 game as an automatic win.
Well, guess what? The rest of the schedule outside of Memphis is Power 5.
Exactly.
Which even Memphis is on that upper echelon of Group of 5.
Yeah, I mean, Memphis. I don't have too much knowledge of how Memphis is this year. Memphis has typically been a solid program.
Yeah, Memphis is like probably should be Power 5. They beat Arkansas State 37-3 today. So like that's respectable.
Yeah. I mean, we can barely beat Middle Tennessee State, so I'm not going to disrespect them.
Especially neutral site. Who knows?
Well, okay, so I'll talk about what you said for a second. So like I feel like at least with college coaches in general, like they should still be at least getting a few years. Drink got his few years though. So if this is the product that he's putting in, like I understand the transfer portal is a thing and NIL and all that, and that's fine and dandy. But like I think even like what Deion Sanders has done at Colorado, like that's like an anomaly just because Deion is attracting players to play for him at an unprecedented rate. It's just not something. Deion has that attraction that not many coaches have. And so he can do that at Colorado and be successful. I feel like for the most part, can't talk, especially at Missouri, like coaches should at least be getting a few years. You don't want to be recycling in new coaches every few years. It's just like eventually you have to be able to give a guy time. You have to be able to have patience with the guy so they can build the program. But I mean, it's year 4. Drinkwitz has had a full cycle. So if this is the product that we're getting in year 4, then yeah, sure, I'm comfortable with calling it quits and pulling the plug. Like we should be better than this. And I love the recruiting. I do. And I still think Eli Drinkwitz deserves a ton of credit as a recruiter because, I mean, every team is passing out NIL money. That doesn't but even after that, what becomes important is relationships with the coaches. And Eli Drinkwitz has been awesome at building relationships with the recruits and getting them to buy into his program. He had back-to-back best recruiting classes in school history, top 25 classes. It's just not something Missouri had ever done before. Gary Pinkel hadn't even done that, even when he was winning, even when he was in the SEC. So I give Drink credit at that part. Problem is, we've seen programs in the past like Tennessee. Tennessee for years was always recruiting top 15 classes, and it didn't matter because the product on the field was terrible. There was terrible coaching, and you finally saw them bring in Josh Heupel, who Mizzou fans don't want to hear it, but he's a good coach. And he's finally turned Tennessee into a winning program, and he has learned to utilize the talent. Even if we have to fire a Drink, I hope we're able to retain as much talent as possible and just see them under a different coach. Because if we got the right coach in here, like the talent on this Missouri team is awesome. Like Luther Burden, Sam Horn, I still think he can be a good quarterback. I just feel like he's being held back by the mismanagement of Eli Drinkwitz. There's a lot of talent on this offense still, even though it doesn't look like a good offense. And then the defense is amazing. Like you even mentioned it during the game, Connor. Like if Drinkwitz got fired, like hell, just give Blake Baker this head coaching job. I mean, what he's got going with the defense is awesome. He's also really young. it feels like most of the players that are on this team would be comfortable playing for Blake Baker as a head coach. So, I mean, not to like already fire up a hypothetical coaching search, but
I think I don't see anything wrong with that. I really don't. Because like I feel like if you were to fire Drinkwitz, the number one thing you would be worried about is like would Burden want to follow Drinkwitz to, because I mean I'd assume Drinkwitz would stick around. Drinkwitz would probably end up on like Gus Malzahn's staff or something like that.
Wouldn't it be awesome if he went to Nick Saban's coaching rehabilitation school and became your offensive coordinator next year?
I mean, at this point, I'd rather have him than Tommy Reed.
You know what Mizzou should do? Here's what's going to happen. We're going to go 5-7 and get a bowl game. That's what's going to happen. We're going to go 5-7 and get a bowl game. Drink is going to get fired, and then Gary Pinkel's going to coach it. He's going to coach the bowl game.
Like Bob Stoops.
Yep.
Remember when people were concerned?
I hope Terry's listening to that.
Remember when people were concerned that Drinkwitz was going to get hired away from Auburn or for Auburn?
Oh my God! After Drink's first year, there were people afraid that he's going to get hired at an NFL team.
Hell no, that's not going to happen. But like, basically, what I'm saying.
Could you imagine Drink going to the NFL?
Yeah, no. But basically, what I'm getting at is like, let's say Drinkwitz gets fired and he gets hired by his old buddy Gus Malzahn as offensive coordinator. That doesn't seem too out of the realm of possibility right now. Granted, I don't know what UCF's offensive coordinator situation looks like, but let's play the hypothetical game here.
Yeah.
Is there any concern of like Luther Burden following Eli Drinkwitz to UCF? The only player that I could see following Eli Drinkwitz is Brady Cook. Like, you really think Sam Horn would follow him to UCF? Hell no. Why would Luther Burden follow him? Do you think Luther Burden committed to Eli Drinkwitz, or do you think Luther Burden committed to Schnucks and just the fan base that worships the ground that he walks on in Columbia? I think it's the latter. Do you think Williams Maury committed to Eli Drinkwitz, or do you think he committed to the ability to stay home and the $1 million that he can get as a high school senior? Because like a lot of these guys committed to Mizzou so that they could stay home. If Eli Drinkwitz gets fired, they're still staying home. Like, the campus isn't moving. We're not the Chargers. We're not relocating here. We're just having a more competent coach. And I don't think
as the great Terry Cluner once said, you commit to the school, not the coach.
Right. And it's like, sure, Eli Drinkwitz has like sold the program to these guys and shit like that. But like, is he selling him or is he selling the University of Missouri? Because if he's selling the University of Missouri, there's no reason to really fret. And like, I was going to talk about two guys. One, Willie Fritz. I think it's notable to talk about what Willie Fritz is doing in Tulane and what he did last year at Tulane, considering he was a competitor with Drinkwitz and one of the favorites during that coaching search. And in fact said that
Mizzou was his dream job.
Yeah, Mizzou was his dream job. And then also running over the scenario of Blake Baker, which I feel like Blake Baker might not necessarily be the best hire, but I feel like it's definitely a safe one. Because like if you hire Blake Baker, basically that's only firing Drinkwitz. Because I feel like if you promote Blake Baker, Kirby Moore is probably still the offensive coordinator. Baker probably promotes one of his assistants to defensive coordinator. I assume all the players stay relatively the same. I guess that Brady Cook would transfer to wherever Drinkwitz went, though. But I'm guessing that it would just be a Kirby Moore exclusive offense and pretty much business as usual everywhere else. And that's basically what they did when they hired Barry Odom to try and keep it business as usual after Gary Pinkel. So it's definitely a safe option, but I don't know if it would be the smartest. But just where recruiting is at and where the defense is at. Because honestly, if you fire Drinkwitz, you're risking losing Blake Baker more than you're risking losing anything that Drinkwitz has done.
I think that no matter what happens, so assuming Drinkwitz does get fired, I think whoever comes in and takes the job is going to be in a 10 times better spot than Drinkwitz was in when he came into the program.
Yeah, it's a very favorable job.
Because Mizzou is like Mizzou has become a significantly better position to coach at because of the NIL backing, because DRF is a really good athletic director and the basketball program's done amazing under her. And I think that she can find the right person, but also just because of like how many more recruits we have and like just the talent on this team and the talent that we know is there that Drinkwitz has brought in. He himself just hasn't been able to coach it. So Barry was never able to get in any guys that were 4 or 5 stars. He wasn't able to get in that many guys, but whoever inherits this roster, they're going to have a shit ton of talent to work with and do a lot of things that they weren't able to do at whatever school they were at before.
Yeah, I mean, the facilities have taken a massive step forward. Even the indoor practice facility that was just built with Drinkwitz being the head coach. The talent is here. I feel like it's an attractive place for players to play. I mean, there's no reason that coaches shouldn't be knocking on the door to come coach at Missouri. Like, I truly feel like this program should be upper echelon of the SEC with the right coach. I mean, the talent, like, if you're pulling in 4 and 5 star recruits, like, there's no reason you shouldn't be competing in the SEC. And unfortunately, to get away from some of like the hypothetical Eli Drinkwitz gets fired, I want to bring the focus back over to this game. But you see the talent that is on this team, and we're still winning games 23-19 over Middle Tennessee and 35-10 against South Dakota. Now, if you want to play optimist, you can look at it this way after this game. If you're looking for any sort of glimmer of hope, a lot of the SEC has looked like crap, even against the bad competition. Like South Carolina was in a dogfight with Furman today. Vandy, didn't they lose to Wake Forest today? I mean, I guess Vandy's kind of a bad example. But LSU.
Kentucky.
Kentucky. They were in a dogfight with Eastern Kentucky. And just like a lot of the, I mean, even Alabama today lost to Texas. They don't look like the Alabama that everyone knows. So, like, the SEC looks really weak. Like, even last week, LSU and Florida State. Like, Florida State just ran LSU off the field. And it's like, well, now you're rethinking that week 5 game against LSU because it's like, oh, Missouri might be able to beat them, but not if they play like they did against Middle Tennessee today. Like, I want to believe that this Missouri team, with its defense, with the idea that the offense can have a pulse, can still beat South Carolina, beat Kentucky, beat Vandy, and have a winning season. But then I actually watched this team play against Middle Tennessee, and they look like crap. Like, okay, you look at the stats. They had 316 total yards of offense, 204 passing yards, 112 rushing yards, but they only averaged 4.9 yards per play. Third down, they were 7 of 13, which is actually pretty good, but it's just like they barely had the ball at all. And part of that is like the running clock thing, because scoring is just down across college football. Offense is down across college football because of the new running clock rule. Because, I mean, even today, Braden, I made that comment to you during the first half. It's like, holy shit, the first half is basically over. Like, that clock runs fast.
Like, okay, so Mizzou and Bama started at the exact same time, and Mizzou was done like 10 minutes before. Or like 10 or 15 minutes before Bama was. And it's just like, I mean, this shit is going so quick.
Yeah. But you look at time of possession, Mizzou held the ball for 32 minutes. Middle Tennessee had it for 28 minutes. They were about even. But the thing is like, against Middle Tennessee, even though their offensive stats aren't horrible, they should be much better against a team like Middle Tennessee. Like, okay, if you beat South Carolina 23-19, and this is what your stats look like, I don't think many people are complaining. Like, you beat an SEC team. But Middle Tennessee, man, like, this performance is unacceptable.
Yeah.
And then Brady Cook's stat line, 14 of 19, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like, that's pretty pedestrian, especially against a team like Middle Tennessee. Again, I mean, how Middle Tennessee's quarterback, Nicholas Vadiato, give me that guy over Brady Cook. Like, that guy was a baller today. So was their other wide receiver. Forget his name. But this dude was making a bunch of circus catches for Middle Tennessee. Justin Olson. Get that guy in the transfer portal and try to get him to come over here. Isn't that sad that I'm wanting to pick players from Middle Tennessee to come play for Mizzou?
Just a little bit. And I just like to mention, so anybody who is unironically saying, "Oh, but we won, we're good, we're 2-0 for the first time in 5 years," or whatever the fuck it is, fuck you. I'm so sick of anybody being optimistic about this shitty football team. I've completely lost hope.
Say I was right.
You were well, Connor. I was never really on the I doubt you train like Josh was. I was just kind of in the middle, like, we'll see.
We saw.
We have seen. You were right, but I'm not going to say that I was wrong because I was never on the.
Well, and that's how I feel because it's like
drink. I was never
still,
on this. I still believe in drink train.
It was always going to be stupid to fire him after year 3. And he was always going to get this year to try and prove himself. And the team's motto was something to prove, STP, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, you proved that you're probably not the right football coach to lead this program.
That's what
STP
means.
Yeah.
I didn't know before. The fuck are they proving? Jesus.
Exactly.
Like,
they're proving that they
really?
They're proving that they can barely beat FCS competition, apparently.
I wanted to ask you something, Josh. How realistic is it? How realistic do you think it would be for DRF to pull the trigger? Because I know a lot of people were shocked when she did it for Kwanzaa, and like as the Mazodcast has kind of put it, a lot of parallels between Drink and Kwanzaa.
Okay, well, I know how the Zodcast feels about Drinkwitz, and I said this to you earlier, but like I will never compare anything to Kwanzaa. Like Kwanzaa was losing to UMKC and basketball, like that was bad at home. So Kwanzaa was horrible. Drinkwitz, say what you want about him. He's never lost. I mean, today that almost happened, but he's never lost to a team that he just absolutely shouldn't have lost to. He's usually taking care of business when he needs to against these types of teams. Kwanzaa didn't do that. But anyway, back to answering your question. Usually you always hear about athletic directors when they come in and there's a coach that is not their guy, that they're usually on a warmer seat than they would be with the old athletic director, because it's like the new athletic director is typically itching to bring in their own person, someone else that fits their vision. And I've, like, being subscribed to Power Mizzou, I've seen some chatter, I've seen some rumors that like DRF isn't the fondest of Eli Drinkwitz. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well then why did you give him that extension last year, and why are you financially committed to him?
Doesn't it make fire him though?
What?
Doesn't it make it easier to fire him though?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure the buyout remained the same, but either
really not that big a deal.
Either way though, DRF I think is on Drink's side until he gives her a reason not to be, and then I think like, okay, if this season goes awry and they win 5 or 6 games again, yeah, I think DRF would pull the trigger and fire him.
So if he does the same shit he's been doing, he's gone.
Yeah, I think this year has to be some sort of substantial step forward for him to remain the head coach of Missouri, I think.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if this were still like the Gary Pinkel, Barry Odom era, and he was pulling in recruits like this, I don't think he'd get fired. But like, I feel like DRF is smart enough to realize that these recruits are committing to the NIL and to the school rather than the coach.
She knows how to play the new game, and she's not fucking around. I mean, Mizzou fans.
She's really not made a bad decision yet.
No, she really hasn't. Mizzou fans have been asking for all these things for years, like getting rid of the track, getting new seats, getting
the
new
black seats in the arena. Holy hell, that was overdue.
Yeah, like there are so many things that Mizzou fans have just been clamoring for years, and she's just like, all right, I'm gonna do all of them in this offseason because we finally have a good basketball team. We finally have money, and just like all this shit just starts pouring in, and she knows how to do. I mean, she's done everything right.
Yeah,
and I'm like, whoever she hires as head coach of the football team, if Drinkwitz gets fired, I'm going to trust her. Like, simple as that. Like, I might not like it in the moment because I don't think many people like Dennis in the moment, but it's just kind of I trust her.
Would you trust?
Yeah, especially after the Dennis hire, I feel like people like kind of trust her to make the right hire. Also, a lot of people seem to be excited about the baseball hire as well. So again, URF is not really giving people a reason to doubt her. So I feel like they'd be pretty confident with her in a coaching search. I want to read off. Okay, well, before I do that, I want to read off some quotes from Eli Drinkwitz from his post game. But first, before that, I want to touch one more.
Did he say that his daughters can't date Brady anymore?
No, he did not
All
say
right,
that.
then I don't give a shit. Fuck him.
But
I'm curious.
Brady Cook, the truthers gotta admit they were wrong about him, man. Like, he's not improved. He is the same exact guy. He's never thrown for 300 yards in a game. He's a pedestrian quarterback. In many games, he looks less than pedestrian. Everyone would blame everything on the shoulder injury last year, even though we've had a very large sample size of Brady Cook at this point. And he was healthy enough to go out there. And, you know, if you're healthy enough to be out there and you're playing, like, I feel like you're still subject to criticism, even if you want to say you have a torn labrum or whatever. But we mentioned multiple times, Braden, me and you, how having a shoulder injury does not hinder your ability to read a defense, something in which Cook cannot do. Cook, even in these past 2 games, you've seen multiple occasions where he rushes through his reads or makes the complete wrong decision. Even today, there was a read option that he had where he could hand off to the running back, decided to take it himself. He had no shot of getting the first down. And then taking that sack that ended up being a safety. Overthrowing these 5-yard out routes, overthrowing routine passes. I'm so sick of seeing that. I'm so damn sick of it. Missing a wide open Luther Burden multiple times on plays that should be touchdowns against Middle Tennessee, mind you. I'm done with the Brady Cook experience. He is not a Power 5 starting quarterback. Definitely not an SEC starting quarterback. And I can't believe this is what Drink has to roll out in year 4. I know I kind of mentioned that already, but it's like, I really cannot believe that this is the quarterback play we were getting in year 4. He's completely holding the offense back. And every time Brady Cook has a bad game, I always see it's somebody else's fault. It's the receivers. It's the offensive line. And I don't want to pretend like the receivers and offensive line have been perfect the entire time Brady Cook has been the starting quarterback. But there always seems to be some excuse other than Brady Cook just not being a good quarterback.
He sucks. Simple as that. Cook truthers just have to admit it.
He's not good. He's not the guy. He's not that guy. I know we were really close to winning 8 games last year, even with him at quarterback. But
oh, brother,
this offense.
We were close to 8 games. We were close. We're gonna do it this year. We were close.
I mean, we were 2 plays away from 8-4, even with Brady Cook as our starting quarterback. And so, a lot of people were just holding out that hope that, okay, if Brady Cook is just a little bit better, if he completes a little bit more of his passes, if the shoulder injury was a real deal thing, okay, then this year should be an 8-win season. And I don't have confidence in that happening anymore. I just don't.
Yeah. I think just about all of the statements that we've made can be retracted if Drink does go out there and we do beat K-State. If that happens.
Yeah, if he beats K-State next week, just throw out the whole episode.
Yeah, if that happens, then none of this matters. Literally nothing that we say right now matters.
I would not bet on that happening.
I literally bet against it. You know that I already put $10 on Mizzou losing that game.
Yeah, Braden has already become a degenerate gambler since this weekend. So
yeah,
new development there, and looks like he's already betting on Mizzou to lose. I mean, at least that way, if your bet doesn't hit and Mizzou wins, it's okay, well, Mizzou won, so that makes me happy. And then if they lose, it's well, at least I made money off of it. So I should really start doing that with the Chiefs, and so should you, Connor.
Fuck this team. I don't want to talk about the Chiefs right now. Honestly, you need to have me on talking about the Chiefs. I have some things to say. I feel very slighted that you're having other people talk about the Chiefs, people that know less ball than me. And I'm very insulted at your treatment of me as far as the Chiefs go. I have been relegated to only XFL coverage. I think you know I'm better.
Brady Cook, good.
Relegated to XFL coverage.
No, I think that I contribute more than you let me.
I mean, I wanted to do something on Chris Jones, but I guess the time. I mean, we could still do something on Chris Jones. I mean, it's not like the topic has died down at all. But okay, I want to get to some of these post game quotes from Eli Drinkwitz. So there was a controversial decision in the game when Drinkwitz decided to punt on 4th and 1. I believe that was when it was
We were up by
20.
13.
Was that okay? So we were up by yeah, that's right. So 4th and 1, we're up by 13. Mizzou decides to punt. That was the Brady Cook read option, I believe. It was 4th and 1. And then Drinkwitz was asked about his decision to punt on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. He says, up 13. If they've got to go 83 yards, their chance of scoring are a lot less than on the 50. That is a complete loser's mentality. Like he's talking as if he's assuming that his team just isn't going to convert on 4th down and that he would rather Tennessee or Middle Tennessee have to go 80 something yards than 50. It's like that is a complete loser's mentality. And
like what, you don't trust your defense to stop a fucking weak group of 5 school?
Yeah.
Like really?
Yeah, really. And honestly, I wonder because like, you know, even Connor can attest to this, like, because we did a lot of like podcasts and like coverage of Drinkwitz in his first year here, and like we loved him, and like the offense was actually pretty good in his first year, and he seemed to be really creative. He would draw up these trick plays. He was aggressive, and it's like each year since then he's like gotten progressively more conservative. Like last year, there was a lot of conservative moments with him where he would decide to punt on 4th down or whatever. And then like he's always talked about how he wants to go for 2 after the touchdown if the team ever gets to overtime or if the game ever gets to overtime. And it seems like every single year he's gotten more and more conservative. And then like he punts on 4th one day, and it's like, why, dude? Like you don't trust your offense to get 1 yard against Middle Tennessee at half field for a chance to put the game away? Like, I don't know, Connor, are you with me there? Like, doesn't it feel like even like in Drinkwitz's first year, like the offense was actually pretty aggressive and Drink was really creative, and now it's just like completely gone away? Am I wrong for thinking that?
Here's what I'll say. I think like it's become very clear, like the Eli Drinkwitz offense that we expect, you know, it's the same like screens on 3rd and long that go nowhere, all the bullshit.
Like, remember just screaming, "Oh, can't wait for a screen" in the stands, and then he just throws a screen.
Let me say what I'm trying to say. Think about like who the play caller was before Eli Drinkwitz. It was Derek Dooley. So like Derek Dooley was Barreld's last offensive coordinator, and Derek Dooley might be the worst play caller I've ever seen. So it's like the bar was the floor, and Drinkwitz passed that, but we just got sick of it because it got found out, you know? And like I don't think that it's necessarily that he became like pussified or whatever, which to an extent there was probably a level of pussification for him, because as
What a word.
no, but I'm just saying, like early on in his career, it's like fuck it, like we're against the reigning national champions LSU, like who gives a shit? We're not supposed to be in this anyway. Let's do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, pressure builds, and the coaches are more worried about messing up. So that's like a natural thing that happens. But at the same time, I think that a lot of the like luster of him was just from the fact that A, he was a new coach, and B, he wasn't Derek Dooley. Like the reason that I kind of got out on Drinkwitz is because he's a snake oil salesman. Like when he came in, he said all the right things. Like I remember him talking about how their recruiting strategy was going to be take the SEC brand into non-SEC territory, up into Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12 territory, and to places like Nebraska, and get kids that want to play for the SEC that aren't being recruited by the SEC, bring them to Missouri and keep kids home and compete for championships doing that. And yeah, the recruiting's been there, but he's not really taken the SEC brand into non-SEC locations. He hasn't competed for championships. He hasn't beaten any notable team except for what? South Carolina has been his best win. Like, so that he hasn't done any of the things he's promised, so therefore that makes him a snake oil salesman. Kind of like how Pete Eberhart was like this going from high school to high school, telling this new crazy idea for offense, and everywhere he goes, it's the same thing with Drinkwitz. Like Pete Eberhart and Eli Drinkwitz sold these fools on this like spectacular new idea that just doesn't exist.
Hey, I mean, like I'm not gonna. I mean, that explanation, like that works. I mean, I do feel like his offenses were just like better earlier on, but then again, he did have Larry Roundtree and Tyler Beatty to carry his offenses for the first couple of years.
And now we don't have any running backs.
And since then, it's like, okay, we got Cody Schrader, the D2 leading rusher from a couple years ago. And like, I like Cody Schrader, but
one step too slow.
He should really be like your number 2 running back if you're like really good, maybe even number 3. And then like even today, like I thought Nate Pete was the hotter hand and they just completely went away from him. So
I'm just gonna say that if you defend your coach by saying, but we were one play away from X, or like, but we were so close to Y, he's probably not the right guy.
Well, I mean, it's never really was a thing with him until last year, but now the examples are starting to pile up. The sample size gets bigger of like, oh, coulda, woulda, shoulda, and whatnot, and it's like even this year, if he just had a quarterback, but he doesn't have a quarterback, and honestly, like he didn't even really try for a quarterback this offseason. He brought in Jake Garcia, but Jake Garcia was never winning the starting job. I don't think anyone really expected him to win the starting job or anything like that. He was just a body that you could put in the game if like Brady Cook got hurt. Drinkwitz didn't really try to bring in a transfer this offseason. It was kind of Brady Cook or Sam Horn. Sam Horn didn't get the job, and a lot of people feel like Drink really treated that situation unfairly with Sam Horn because we got to see Sam Horn for like 2 drives, and he threw an interception that wasn't his fault. And they shut down the offense in the second half for Sam Horn. Drinkwitz after the game is like, oh, well, Brady Cook was better, so he's our starting quarterback. And it's like, all right, dude, you just completely lied to everybody about having an open quarterback competition. Hold on, one more thing I'll say is like, I do feel like Drink wanted to have an open quarterback competition, and he was welcoming someone else to unseat Brady Cook. But then he just quickly decided that there was no quarterback competition after seeing them play. Like, even Gabe for Power Mizzou was saying how, like, he thinks Drink wants to open up the offense because, like, fans keep talking about wanting to see explosive plays, which we have not really seen in the first couple of games, which you should be getting explosive plays against lesser competition. Even last year against, like, Abilene Christian and New Mexico State, they were getting those explosive plays against those teams, and it just feels like they're so rare to come by, even against South Dakota and Middle Tennessee. But Drinkwitz really, I feel like, wants to open up the playbook, like Gabe said. And then he gets out there, and then he gets scared. And he just goes back to the offense that he knows. And it's like his binky. Like, he just goes back to throwing screen passes and handing off to the running back.
Here's, like, one thing that I, like, want to
He's too scared. He's a scared coach. He has a loser's mentality.
No. Hold. Well, it's like, it's really easy to sit here and say, yeah, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And it's a completely different game when the headset's on and you have to make those calls. Like, you can sit here and say, we're going to do X, Y, and Z all you want in practice. You can run those plays all you want. You can say in press conferences you want to run those plays all you want. It's a completely different thing to put the headset on and call those plays. You know, like, one thing that I wanted to point out is, like, we were talking about, like, you were saying how, like, if Drink did this, and that, then he'd be a great coach or whatever. But, like, how often, and, like, this is a genuine question, how often do we see coaches, like, evolve and change? And, like, we talk about the Chiefs all the time. And Eric had, like, some tweet Thursday night that was like, this team tackles like a bunch of pussies. Every time they try to make a tackle, it's 8 yards after contact. And so I quote tweeted it. And I said, oh, well, that just means Chiefs football is back. Because as long as I can remember, the team's tackled like a bunch of bitches, and that's been the issue. a consistent issue the Kansas City Chiefs have always had has been dumbass punt returning because Dave Tobe is an idiot. And also consistent holding anytime there's a big return. That's been a consistent issue with the Chiefs. Sure, they've won some Super Bowls, but there's very clear, consistent issues that have persisted throughout Andy Reid's tenure. Even after the Super Bowls, he still sucks at play clock management. Like, any issue that could have been applied to Andy Reid a few years ago could still be applied to him. How many coaches actually evolve and change? The only one that really like comes to mind for me has been like unironically Saban, because Saban went from like the ground and pound defensive heavy run first offense with like Blake Sims and all those guys to more of a pass heavy offense after benching Jalen for Tua Tagovailoa, and you saw a more pass heavy offensive Alabama.
Even offense, like Saban was long known for like his defensive juggernauts at Alabama, and then he kind of shifted his focus over to having an elite offense, and like that's kind of how they won.
Yeah, now he's trying to shift back, and it's not fucking working. But that's another day. But the point I'm making here is like, what is the likelihood that Drink is actually going to improve? Because like what I was getting at is like the only coach that I can think of that really changed their identity was Saban. What is the likelihood that Drinkwitz is going to pull a Saban and actually be able to change his identity? Like,
I feel like if it was going to happen, it should have been this year, because I always gave him the benefit of the doubt because it's like he's a young coach. He had 1 year of head coaching experience at App State before coming to Mizzou. And then like he talked about how he realized this past offseason, he realized how he needs to take some stuff off his plate, and that's why he's hiring an offensive coordinator and blah, blah, blah. And then like the 2 games, it looks like he's still the one calling the plays. This isn't really his offense. And Kirby Moore is just an offensive coordinator in name. And it's like, okay, now we know what this is now.
Yeah, and like I think a consistent issue that I've had with him is ego. And I think even though it's been 2 games, his ego has been a massive fucking issue this year. Like,
yeah, and well, like even with Brady Cook being the quarterback, like, yes, okay, so he brought in Kirby Moore as an offensive coordinator, and I feel like if Kirby Moore had any true command over this offense, Brady Cook would not be the starting quarterback. Like, I really don't think Kirby Moore wants Brady Cook as his starting quarterback. I think Drink wants Brady Cook as his starting quarterback, and Kirby Moore is just told to deal with it. Like, this is your starting quarterback, make it work. And it's not working.
I feel like you could, like, Braden mentioned it, like, just then, like, his ego has also become very apparent in his press conferences. And it's kind of an issue that we used to have with Reid, where it's like, I think about like the 2017 season where Nagy was calling the plays and the offense was humming, and then Reid took it back over and the offense completely fell to shit. I think that maybe at one point Drink was like intending on having Kirby Moore call the plays, but because I don't think he was humble enough to really hand him the keys. I think he was willing to hire him and give him the job, to get some of the heat off his back. But it's a lot easier to like make a commitment like that in the off season. But when it comes to time to actually like hand him the keys to his football team and his offense, I think he's very hesitant to do that. And I don't think he's done that. And like, you can sit here and, cause like one of the things you said last year is like, oh, well, he swallowed his pride and hired an offensive coordinator. Yes, he hired him, but he's not calling the plays. And the arrogance to be like, oh, well, we scored 21 with Brady and 7 with Sam, or whatever he said. And then like be like, oh, well, I want Brady Cook to date my daughter, unironically, which is just a horrible quote, especially since his daughter's 13. Just even like the arrogance that you've said on a couple of the quotes from today's press conference. It's just, this guy is like, it's kind of ironic because some of the issues you have with Coach Prime can be applied to here. Because like your issues with Coach Prime is he talks the talk and walks the walk, and you say he hasn't won anything yet. Well, Drinkwitz talks like he's in the like Deion Sanders, Nick Saban, Lane Kiffin like realm, but he's yet to have a winning season. And like that's part of like what really turned me off because Richard Sherman said it's not talking smack if you can back it up. Eli hasn't backed it up at all, and I don't expect him to. And if you think you're hot shit and you're not going to improve. So bottom line, new coach.
It also makes you borderline unhireable for somebody else's head coach opening if you say all these things, you do all these things, and then you can't win games. And you look terrible on the way out, really.
He does look terrible. And it's time for him to go. Bye-bye. Don't let the door hit you.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. I think next week against K-State, look, if he beats K-State, then I guess...
Shit. Hold on. Breaking news, Michigan State football coach Mel Tucker is subject of an ongoing sexual harassment investigation.
Uh-oh.
They're trying to find a way out of that contract.
Yep.
Yeah.
Eli Drinkwitz.
All right. Well, we got to end it. All right. So if they beat K-State next week, forget everything that we said in this episode. But we don't predict that. So I'll ask now. I'll ask you guys both. How many points do they lose to K-State next week? Or how many points do they lose by?
Ooh, boy. Connor,
what?
remember going to the K-State game last year?
We're not talking about that.
I think Mizzou loses by 23.
That's generous, I feel like. I feel like that's being
Okay,
real
I
generous
think
for this group.
okay, if Brady gets hurt or if we take Brady out, I think we're going to be a lot better with Sam Horn as our backup than whoever the fuck we had last year who threw picks on 3 straight plays. So I don't think that'll happen. And also just home field advantage. So
What home field advantage? Mizzou fans would rather go deer hunting than go to football games.
hey, it's the first sellout since 2019.
Yeah, they sold it out. They had 57,000 tonight. I mean, the fans are showing up, but drink isn't
Because
really
it's
giving
not
them a
beer
great
season.
product. Drink's not giving them a good product right now. So, Connor, do you have how many points did they lose by? And then I'm going to wrap it up.
I said 42-6 with a missed Harrison Mevis extra point.
That's it?
Yes.
All right. Fair enough. I think I'm going to say 30 points is what they lose by. But yeah, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. Mizzou won today, but no one feels good about it. We'll see what happens next week. I'm bracing for it. I'm bracing for a big loss. But yeah, like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Go watch
MIZ,
Shovel
I
movies.
guess. Yeah, that too. All right.
He doesn't
We'll see y'all.